This is all the proof you need about the moral bankruptcy of the BBC. I'm going to tell you in this video why they are responsible for the death of Diana, Princess of Wales. This isn't new, but it is something that's worth remembering in the context of the Donald Trump litigation. Donald Trump says, as you know, that the BBC have been grossly dishonest about him by attempting to make it look like he encouraged a coup d'etat in the Capitol building. I don't believe, by the way, that it was a coup d'etat or an insurrection, but even if it was, Donald Trump didn't encourage it. He merely encouraged a protest, and the BBC had lied. In this video, I'm going to give you everything you need to go down the pub this weekend and explain to the people you meet why the BBC killed Princess Diana. Everything you're about to hear is fully on the record. It's not even new, but I think it's worth listening to nonetheless. Hello everyone, this is Andre Walker. Thanks so much for watching this video. Please do subscribe, but more importantly, please do consider making a donation to the Patriot Fund. We help by giving small grants to people who are standing up for this country. And we always send you a video update by email telling you how the money was spent. Please do consider donating. The link is below. Okay, so when Charles and Diana split, it was a very, very difficult time. The reality is, I think we can all accept now that King Charles should have been allowed to marry Camilla Parker Bowles when he wanted to all those years ago, and the whole Diana thing was a misadventure. I think it's something out of the past where you marry a woman you can't stand just in order to look good on the TV and produce an heir. I just don't think it's really a particularly great thing to do anymore, and I don't think it worked out for the royal family at all. And I think both Charles and Diana were victims, and actually to an extent Camilla, who I have to say, no person in Britain has taken more abuse than Camilla and kept her mouth shut. But anyway, I slightly digress. Let me explain what happened. Martin Bashir wanted an interview with Diana, Princess of Wales, after the divorce from the then Prince Charles. Now, here's how he did it, just to remind you. Earl Spencer, her brother, had a member of staff in his house, Althorpe House, that he didn't trust and he suspected was selling stories about Princess Diana to the newspapers. This man, incidentally, has subsequently been proved to be completely innocent. Somehow, Martin Bashir found out about this. And what he did then, he got a graphic designer at the BBC to forge a bank statement of this in this guy's name. Right, and it included large cash payments from a trust in the British Virgin Islands. Right, he then presented those bank statements to the Spencer family, to Earl Spencer and Princess Diana. Now, what he said was not News UK are paying, or the Daily Mirror are paying, or the Daily Mail are paying. What they were saying was this: the British security services, through a British Virgin Island trust, were paying this guy to leak, and they were selling the stories to the newspapers. And that is critical because of the following thing. That got Bashir his interview. By the way, it got the member of staff who was wholly innocent the sack, and he was castigated for years by Earl Spencer, having been blamed for all of this. But critically, here was the important point. Princess Diana then believed that the security services were spying on her, which they probably weren't, but she fired her police protection as a result. That meant the professional driver went, the armour-plated vehicle went, the armed bodyguards went, and instead she used the security services that Dodi Al-Fayed could come up with. Now, many of you have your own views on what happened to Princess Diana in Paris. I will tell you that I met a guy who was won the paparazzi, and he maintains, now you would say he would do this, he maintains that it was the flashing of the bulbs that dazzled Henri Paul, and he crashed the car as a result of that. They said the reason we never came forward was because we all thought that we were going to be prosecuted for killing her. So he said, I threw my bike in the River Seine and immediately boarded a flight and left the country, and have never told anyone publicly about what happened. Okay, fine. Or you could believe that there was an attempt to assassinate her, or you could believe that the Emir of the Sultan of Brunei did it because he hated the Al Fayed family. You can believe any of that. But are we all agreed on one thing? That if she had a professional driver and an armour-plated car and an armed bodyguard, whatever happened in that tunnel in Paris would never have happened. And the reason she didn't have those things was because of the lies of the BBC. Now, every single state broadcaster is slightly dodgy, but I have to say to you, what the BBC have done over the years is absolutely unforgivable. When they had Top of the Pops, and the stars of Top of the Pops are inviting 12-year-olds into their dressing rooms, and the BBC said, we didn't know what they were doing in there. Oh, come on. I don't think it requires any sense of imagination whatsoever. Let me tell you something. If you go to GB News, if you go to Talk TV and say, hey, in my dressing room after the show, I'm going to have an underage sex party, let me tell you what would happen. They'd drag you out by the hair. And yet at the BBC, this seemed to be entirely appropriate. Jimmy Savile has a caravan in the car park of the BBC which says, if this van's rocking, don't come knocking. In the car park of Television Centre. And he's inviting 13-year-olds into it. Absolutely unbelievable. The BBC are morally bankrupt. And I'll tell you what has happened to the BBC. Because of their position, they are more interested in their own reputation than they are in doing the right thing. When you look at the way that the BBC handled Brexit, the reality was, it was like watching a funeral when Dimbleby came on at 4:30 in the morning going, and now we've worked out that the Remain can't win. And the virtually sort of tears flowing down his face as the cortege enters the mall. A moment of quiet reflection. Anyway, but that is what they are like. And the reality is, I'm going to tell you something about the BBC that is the funniest story I've ever heard. Just a little bit of light relief in what is a difficult thing. Right, Media City is in the ward of Oddsall in Salford. Right, to understand this story, you have to understand the way that election ballots are counted in this country. Your local polling station, whether it be a primary school or a church hall, has its own polling number. And that box, when it comes back, when it's emptied on the desk, the counting agents at the town hall can see all the votes, right? Now, the ballot box for Media City in the Brexit referendum had 2 leave votes. 2. So everyone who lives in Media City, collectively, there were like 300 votes to remain and 2 to leave. And what is extraordinary about this, my old mate James Grundy, former Member of Parliament for Lee, went to the 4 council houses that happen to be in that polling station area that predate Media City. He banged on the door and 2 people said that they were the people who voted to leave the European Union. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that's right. It's official. Nobody who lives at Media City and works for the BBC voted to leave the European Union. Not even 1, not even 2, none at all. That shows you the bias that they exist in and the bubble that they exist in, because they think that their behaviour is acceptable. It's exactly the same as Prince Andrew. These people at the top believe there's one rule for them and another rule for us. I will tell you, what happened to Diana, Princess of Wales, was a genuine disgrace. And the fact that the only action the BBC took when they discovered about this was they sacked the graphic designer. Yes, that's right. Martin Bashir got a promotion and the graphic designer was sacked for agreeing to make the forgery. The person who commissioned the forgery got a promotion. The people who traded off the forgery all got to keep their jobs. The bozo that made the forgery was the person that took the fall. There's never been any compensation from the BBC to the Spencer family. There's never been an apology to Earl Spencer. There's never been compensation to the member of staff who was sacked. And actually, there's never been an apology to King Charles. Because remember one thing, yes, he had an affair. Yes, he'd been a crap husband. I think we all accept that. But remember something else. The vitriol and hatred was because she believed that he was paying her staff to leak stories about her. And that simply wasn't true. She did that interview trashing Charles because she thought that Charles was spying on her. That evidence was simply fabricated by the BBC, and it is the reason why she is dead today. Shame on you, BBC, and I hope that now we can do something about it. And I think a future government needs to seriously reform this institution and get rid of the licence fee. Thanks so much for watching this video. Please do subscribe, but also please do consider a donation to the Patriot Fund. Until next time, goodbye.